Hey, what's up? Today, a completely new, uncommon format. Um, I was stuck a couple of times um, in my life, and for sure will be stuck many, many times more in my life. But in this video, I want to share what my, let's say, what my current recipe is, strategy, whatever you want to call it, that helps me get out of a rut fairly quickly and keep continuing to pursue my dreams finally. Um, I'm an entrepreneur for I don't even know how many years, maybe 12 years, 10 years, 12 years. It depends on how you count them. But that was always my dream, right? That was always my dream, and now I'm here, 10 years in, obviously still learning, continuing to learn, but I've hit a couple of roadblocks in my journey so far, and I'm going to speak more about entrepreneurship, but you can actually just you know apply to any kind of situation where you feel stuck. And yeah, you know, one thing that always helped me, essentially I'm going to talk about four things that I've realized really helped me, so they hopefully help you as well. The first thing is really that you are actually not stuck. You are never stuck. And I heard I read a quote recently from Jocko Willing that said the only failure is death, right? The only real failure is death. So all other types of failure are just psychological. And this resonated so much with me because that's how I really think, right? So there is no there is no really getting stuck, right? The only real getting stuck is when there's no more options, right? And that's death, right? There's only one option that we all have to go eventually. But before that, there's always some type of way. And one thing that really helped me, this actually, I think it was a speech from Winston Churchill at some point, where where they hired him to speak on like what's important to be successful and stuff, and hundreds of people gathered, and they were expecting like a huge speech, and he said a couple of words which were never, ever, 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 ever give up. And then he left the stage because there's no more to say. There's not much more to say, and this, I really like to think that way. So a couple of situations where I was like obviously your mind first goes towards, wow, what should I do? I'm stuck, I don't know where to go, I don't know what to do. But if you learn to train your way to an extent that you tell yourself, hey, no, we just didn't go far enough, like we just have to dig deeper, we have to continue to work. And I can give you a couple of examples. I mean, a couple years back I was basically working 15-16 hours a day for maybe 2 clients and my own project that never really went anywhere. And I made like $900 a month, like nothing, right, at that time. And that was a situation where you're like, man, like what am I doing wrong? I just feel stuck. Whatever I do doesn't work. And then you start to push yourself down this negative spiral of thoughts. But still, in that situation, what helped me was just to say, no, let's continue, let's push through, there has to be something. And lo and behold, I did that for 2-3 months, and super frustrated also with the clients, and working all day long doing everything, creatives, media buying, strategy, email, conversion rate optimization. I was like jumping around in the code. It was kind of like my own e-commerce brand, but it was not, right? And then they launched a product. I tested it on ads, and it went completely crazy. We went from like spending $200 a day to like $30,000 a day within 10 days, right? I mean, I've never done that before, but I knew that there was something as long as I just kept doing it. And obviously, at some point, you might be just, you know, doing things too much, and you have to jump off of a dead horse. But that's a fine line. That's a fine line, and I think it's better, especially in our times where I see people, just jumping off opportunities too early. It's just to, keep pushing and not just stop because something doesn't work the way you want to, or something, some person doesn't act the way you want to. Just to stick with stuff, right? Because I truly believe people that are really successful are the ones that can just stick with stuff for a long time. Their time horizon is completely different, which brings me to my second point, which is essentially to think big. I mean, it sounds so corny and cheesy. Yeah, think big, have a great vision. But honestly, this is what helps you to just have a completely different time horizon, right? And then it doesn't bother you to just like stick with something for a couple of years, right? And not just jump off of the ship when you hit the first thunderstorm or something like that. Like, and this is what I see with a lot of people. I mean, I didn't plan it out that way, but now, I'm in e-commerce, for example, in my case, like advertisement, paid ads for e-commerce for like 6-7 years. And, still I consider myself being at the beginning of all of this, right? Because I have bigger goals, I have a bigger vision, right? Like the e-commerce that we're doing now. I mean, my plan is to sell. Our plan as a group is to sell this for a big amount, and we know it will take a couple of years, right? We're not in it just for a couple of months to make some quick money. And I think this is really what holds people back from being successful. Not to say, that I'm like on the pedestal and I'm like the super successful guy. I consider myself like literally just at the beginning, right? Even if I'm like 7 years in, 10 years in as an entrepreneur, there's so much more to learn and to grow into. But it's nice to see the first results. But then the next question has to be, what's next, right? That's what all the great people do. And yeah, so I think the big vision is really one huge thing that helps me, in moments where you're really like by yourself in your room and like working like crazy and not seeing the results that you want to see. This really helps. Like, that's kind of like the hope, right? That you can create in a way in these moments where you just say no. Like, my goal is to, I don't know, make a huge exit with this brand. So what am I like complaining about? I mean, this is not going to be easy, right? These big goals are never easy, right? They might come easy at some point, but they're never easy. Like, the whole road, the whole way is never easy, and that helps you to keep things in perspective. I think this is really what it is, finally, is that in many times you just overvalue the situation that you're in. You just overvalue it, right? You just think this is the most important thing in the world now, and you only see this. But in reality, it's just a tiny step on a long journey, right? So this helps you to keep things in perspective, not take the highs too high, not take the lows too low, and basically to stay even keel on your journey, right? And that keeps you out of these emotional traps where you go down a spiral because of something that happened. But as I said, if you have a a big vision, it's not that hard. It's going to, it's going to pass, and there's going to be light at the end of the tunnel, and then there's going to be another valley waiting for you after that. But that's just how it goes. This is just the nature of the game. And yeah, that's one thing that really helps me now. And as I said, like, you always have these things, right? Be it with in certain projects, like working with people, there's always something, right? So it's more about getting smarter at spotting those things, and also spotting your own patterns on how you react to certain things, to stop yourself, going down that, rabbit hole, and basically saying, no, stop. We have a huge vision. We know it's a marathon. Let's just not like overvalue this situation. Let's not give it too much weight. It's going to pass. We're going to find a solution, right? And we're not going to stop because of that, right? So yeah, one other thing, I took some notes here just to not forget anything, is really to take a distance, right? When things are too heated, and also you feel that your mind is just clogged up with the same thoughts over and over and over again, it really helps to just disconnect from all of that, and just get some new fresh thoughts into your head. So how I like to do this is really nature, right? Nature, or going for a run. Even I like you can ask all the people that know me. I don't like to run. I like to run when I play, football or basketball or something. Like, I can run for 3 hours and I don't even notice it. But I'm not a great, let's say, long distance runner, just running. But in these situations, I like to do it, right? Just to force myself to, think differently, to breathe, to be outside in nature, and then maybe sit somewhere alone in nature and just gaze, at nature, right? Or just watch other people and just not think, or just spend like time with my little one, right? Or and my fiance, right? Those are things that things that just get you out of your state, out of your vibration. Because at some point, when you have the same kind of thoughts and you're really you feel trapped, this is very hard to get out of it by yourself. So you need some kind of stimulus that just gets you out of it, right? And that's something that really helps me to just disconnect entirely and let the problem just leave the problem, essentially. I mean, you never really leave it, because your subconscious is working on it constantly. But what I've realized is that when you work with your conscious mind too much, it kind of blocks your creativity. And that's the important thing, to distract yourself, and then at some point you can approach the same situation with a completely different, fresh perspective, and things either have already resolved themselves, or you just resolve them in way quicker without a lot of effort. So that's another one. Also, a big one is, obviously, this is actually part of that, is just ask people, right? Get a different perspective. Stop being in your head too much. And this is really in anything. I love to ask people about, especially people that have solved whatever issue I'm facing multiple times, for their advice. This really just gives me different perspectives that I've most likely not had. And that's my fiance, that's my this is my family, right? This is my friends, right? Business partners. So this is really something that always helps, not to just to be humble in these situations and understand I don't need to resolve this stuff by myself. Like, who said I have to do that? I can ask other people, get advice, and then create my own solution. So yeah, the very last thing is where the conscious mind can help you with is really just to deconstruct problems or situations where you feel stuck into the tiniest detail. Because one thing that always happens, like this is how we work in a way, is that we jump straight to this flight and fight reaction, right? Where we basically encounter some kind of problem, and then the first thing we think is, oh my goodness, this is like the end of the world, and this will like ruin that, and this will affect this, and this will affect my business, and blah blah blah. And you just, again, that's this negative spiral. And one thing that I've realized also over the times is what helps me to keep a cool head is really to write stuff down. Number one, write down your thoughts, because it's kind of like, it's really magical, right? Once you write them down, they're out of your head, and that gives you more headspace in a weird way, right? At least that's what I'm experiencing. So this really helps me just to, I'm not journaling regularly, but especially in these situations, that's where I go back to journaling, right? Where I just make sure I download everything, every thought, everything that, that I don't like, everything that I like, that I'm grateful for, whatever the case may be, whatever's inside of my head, I try to get it out. And that's amazing, right? Because then it's outside of your head. You can look at it, you can read it. And one thing that I like to do when I journal is really to deconstruct the problem. Like, what is really the problem, right? Like, in as much detail as I can, right? What's really stopping me from doing what I want to do? And dismantle what's the real root cause of my struggle. Because this really, stops this emotional, roller coaster. And it tells you basically, it makes you focus on how big of a problem is that actually. And in many times, at least I see, is that it's not as big as you think. It's not as big as you think. It is, maybe you know this exercise of Tim Ferriss that is called fear setting. Whatever you want to do, or you have like a huge decision coming up, for example, or something, again, like where you feel stuck and you're scared in a way to make the jump, to do a decision, to quit the job, to quit your studies, which is what was in my case, or like to start a new business or something like that, is to basically break down your fear, right? Like, what exactly are you scared of? And the magical thing that happens is that by the end of the exercise, you will see that it's not as big of a deal, right? So part of the exercise is, first of all, to write it down, like, what are you scared of? And then also, like, what's the worst case that can actually happen, right? So in my case, it was like, yeah, okay, do I quit my master studies, or do I continue? Like, what am I scared of, right? Maybe it's my parents, that obviously would love that I finish it. It's only 1 more year or 1.5 more years. At the same time, I knew I wanted to start my entrepreneurial, journey, right? I was ready, and I felt I was ready, and I just didn't want to study anymore, because, I didn't see the point, right? And but finally, like, I realized, like, the worst thing that can happen is, in my case, I have a bachelor's degree, I can get a job. I can just apply for jobs, and worst case, I'm sleeping on the couch at home, right? So, or at my parents' house. Like, it wasn't as big, but it's so important to break it down, because if you don't do it, it's always this like mysterious blurry thing that is scary, and this in your mind becomes like a huge mountain that you've never really studied, right? You never really questioned it, and it just grows and grows and grows. So what really helps in any situation when I'm stuck, and that's what I also would also be my advice now, is to really like break it down. Where are you stuck? Like, what is it exactly? And how can you, like, what is it exactly that maybe you're scared of, right? Because then 9 times out of 10, maybe even 10 times out of 10, you will see, wait a second, it's not that big of a deal, right? Even if this doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world. It doesn't mean it's the end of my journey, of my, of whatever I'm pursuing. So yeah, this is really something that, again, where you can actually use your your conscious mind, your analytical mind, to just take away the fear, right? Take away the fear, because when you're stuck, oftentimes it is, it has to do with, fears and things where you have anxiety or you're scared of without even knowing sometimes. And this really helps you to make things more clear, right? It's really about clarity, and not just assuming things, right? So yeah, I hope that was helpful. Completely different video. I'm here in Naples. Maybe you hear it in the background. Beautiful Naples in Italy. But just wanted to get this message out, because I feel like this is also important, because whatever you do, right, if it's e-commerce or if it's something else, it doesn't really matter. It's always a journey, right? And I will try to share more of these types of thoughts also, because I think they're an important part of the process that is not talked about much, right? Obviously, you see on my channel I have a lot of tactical videos and how I scale e-commerce brands and my own brand and stuff, and it all looks great, obviously. I try to share it in a very honest way, right? But still, like, it can look like from the outside that everything is like, perfect always, which is not the case, right? Like, everybody that will tell you that or give you that feeling, that's just a lie, right? It's not like that. And that's why it's important to also share what do I do when I get stuck. And of course I get stuck, like everybody gets stuck. Like, don't think that there's no any entrepreneur, especially entrepreneurs, that never get stuck. Like, all these big guys, and I know some of them, they all have their struggles, and that's okay. This is just part of the process, right? And it's about finding your mental models, your answers, right? Your reactions to when something happens, which it will, 1000%, especially if you have a bigger vision, then it will happen even more often in bigger magnitudes. But this is part of it, right? That's kind of like the price that you pay. And one last thing also that I want to share is that I see all of these, like, say, roadblocks or like plateaus, I see them just as it's an exciting time to really upgrade your own character, right? To upgrade how you think, how you react, as a man, as an entrepreneur, to really, like, kind of like craft your story, right? Because those are the stories that you will tell yourself and the people around you, right? And your kids potentially. So it's really about how do you react in these situations. This is really the important stuff. And it's easy to have everything, that everything is shining and everything is great. When things are going great, it's easy, right? That's easy. Everybody can do that. But what if nothing is working? What if things start, crumbling and, coming down? Like, what do you do? How do you respond? Mentally and, and also like tactically. But first of all, mentally. And that's what I think, that's really important. I hope I gave you some ideas on it, at least on what I know now. And let's see, maybe I'll redo the video in a couple of years and see what the difference is. But trust me, you're not stuck. You are never stuck until you're dead. You're never stuck. Right? There's always a way, and this has to be the primary reaction to whatever is happening. Right? There is a way, and if you believe that, and you should believe that, then there is a way. Right? And then you will find a way. Even if nobody walked this way ever before, you will find that way, as long as you keep that belief. So I'll close with this one. Wish you an amazing day, night, wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.